Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Wendy Lieber, co-founder and CEO of Content Bacon. How are you doing, Wendy?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. Let's dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the beginning and what sparked your journey and what made you start your own business.
Yes. So this is my second company. My first company was called Athena Marketing, and it was more of a boutique marketing consultant where it was really just me working with clients and helping them develop a marketing strategy. I did a lot of work with private equity groups as well and their investments to help increase the value using marketing as the tool. And I really loved, that business. And it was, the start of my entrepreneurial journey. I had kind of come from the corporate world, but I got that business to a certain level and it was hard for me to scale it. And so I was looking for ways to scale, and I wasn't even sure I wanted to scale that business because it was, you know, very labor resource intensive. And there was always, lots of heavy conversations with clients on an ongoing basis about, are we adding value? Are we adding the right value? But around that time, and this has been just roughly 10 years, Content Bacon just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. But I really started to notice companies of all shapes and sizes were struggling with creating content on a consistent basis. And it was becoming necessary, right? You had to have an up-to-date mobile-friendly website. You had to have some type of social media presence. You had to have some type of email, going out. And so I just kind of started dabbling with creating very simple content subscriptions for current clients that I had, and it took off. Like it was immediately well received. They handed over their credit card. There were never any conversations on ROI because they knew that these things were necessary to just look alive. And so that was the launch of Content Bacon. I met my partner at the time, and he was doing some stuff in video, and we decided to join forces and create Content Bacon. And for the first year, we still had our existing companies, and then we also were working on Content Bacon, and Content Bacon exploded. We were, acquiring customers very easily. Again, the subscription-based model I really loved. And so, there was a point, where we were like, let's just do this. And we both, jumped into it 100%. And yeah, I guess the rest is a little bit history. Here we are 10 years later. We've had steady growth. We have an amazing team. We've served thousands and thousands of customers. We've produced millions of pieces of content. And yeah, and the future continues to look bright.
Well, congratulations on your 10-year
Thank you.
anniversary of your company.
Thank you.
And it sounds to me like from your first company, like you said, was labor intensive, and you sort of were getting pulled into doing lots of things, lots of different things that weren't really that were time consuming and were quite a little bit draining. I would maybe say, where the customers are asking you, "What's the ROI? What's the ROI?" And it
Yeah.
feels like you leveraged that with Content Bacon into your own lane, and then leveraged that, and then it kind of just snowballed effective from there. By the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that saying, right? The riches are in the niches. And so I think by really just owning the content lane, and at the time, there was really no other company like ours doing what we were doing. So there wasn't this subscription-based model. Um, there wasn't like the basics or of what every company needs for content. And so I like to think we innovated this concept and kind of pioneered. I mean, obviously now, content is available in many, shapes, sizes, and formats, but it was a really new concept at the time. And so having the right systems and processes, which was something I really didn't have at Athena Marketing, everything was kind of customized, different, but being able to create standardization, scalability, systems and processes. It made it a lot easier to hire people too. And that was another big lesson. I did everything. I wore every hat at Athena Marketing. At Content Bacon, we were very deliberate from the start that we were going to hire the right people and not get sucked into, doing the work until we were ready, right? Because that's a lot of times what startups do. You grind and you hustle until you think it's the right time to hire people, and it's never the right time. I mean, the right time is, you got to do it. And so luckily, by having a company before and making so many mistakes, I was able to learn from those in my second venture and not make those mistakes. I made new ones.
No, definitely. And if you're learning from them, they're not a mistake, they're a lesson, I say. Do you know what I'm saying? And
100%.
you use that to be the driving force of your new business, and look where it's taken you. So I don't think any of it was definitely not wasted, or I wouldn't even call them
Agreed.
mistakes. So
Agreed.
well done to you for that. And I feel like having repeatable systems is such a big thing, especially you're talking about this when you started like 10 years ago. Everybody's talking about repeatable systems now, but having them back then and realizing that the value of content, that everybody's going to need it. It's content. It's almost like currency for a lot of businesses now. And I feel like
Yes,
you spotting that all the way back then is obviously a big part of your success in today.
100%.
Wendy, you've helped position Content Bacon as a category leader in content as a service. What does your role actually look like today, and where do you spend most of your time?
Yeah. So I spend my time in three key areas, and they're really my favorite areas, and I think what I'm really good at. And it's taken time to get to this, point, but one is coaching and developing my team and developing other leaders. Like that's one of my biggest areas of fulfillment when the team around me become the leaders and they don't need me to do a lot of the things that I've typically done in the past. So coaching and developing the team is something I spend a lot of time in. Developing new products. I love product development, and so developing new products. We recently launched a whole line of CRM content products to help companies leverage their CRM with content, with technology, with automations. And so I love seeing where there's bottlenecks and pain points and frustrations with companies and coming up with ways to solve that. So, product development is another key area. And then big relationships. I'm still involved in business development, but I spend a lot more of my time developing bigger relationships with other agencies or one to many type relationships where we can really leverage our resources. So those are the three key areas. And just a side note, I was able to put this to the test recently. I just took a 16-day trip down the Grand Canyon where I had no phone, no ability to communicate with my company. And that was the longest I've ever been, unavailable, if you will. And everything just went, better than I could have imagined. So it was a real win for me to know that the team that I have in place like doesn't need me. So felt really good. Now, 10 years ago, I was a micromanager and control crazy, so I would never have even wanted to do that. But, as we evolve, we start to learn like, yeah, that's actually why we create businesses so we can have more freedom. So I was able to put a check mark there.
Definitely, and I think that's a key test to be able to do that, and everything runs smoothly. But it just shows how much you are in the coaching side of it to be able to coach leaders to actually run the business, as opposed to coaching people that just taking information. You're clearly actually coaching people to take charge and look after the business as their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And also, the problem solving part of it, I feel like that's a key part that a lot of founders, they don't, they once they get up to a certain point that they sort of leave that behind, but clearly you're still into, you obviously enjoy that as well. And I feel like that's problem solving for clients, builds client relations. They all sort of go hand in hand, everything you've just said. So by doing that, builds the client relationships even more so. So, Wendy, from your vantage point, what major trends are you seeing in the world of content marketing, especially with AI automation shaking things up?
Yeah, the AI trend has been interesting. I think when Chat GPT first made its debut, everyone was like, thinking, oh, we don't need content companies anymore. We can do it ourselves. We never really saw that impact because we are very much done for you. Like, so we do strategy, we create the content, we distribute the content. But we were definitely seeing it more from the demand side. So we didn't necessarily lose business, but we definitely found it for a while a bit harder to generate new business because that was going on. And then we saw the pendulum swing quite heavily, maybe 6 to 8 months after, where companies that were trying to do that and maybe even doing it were like reaching out to us, like, help me, I've made a mess, I have no strategy, I've just got, tons of junk. And so that's kind of been the trend more recently, is a lot of companies that thought that AI would be the solution to all their content needs have realized, wow, now with more and more content being put out there, our content has to be just better, higher quality, more connection, more authentic. So that's certainly a trend that we've seen. We've also seen, you mentioned the word automation, that people, companies wanting to tap more into automation and make sure that as their prospects, their leads are taking actions, they're not relying on a human being all the time for everything, that there is automation set up that, hey, if you download this thing on my site, you get put into this sequence, or if we go to a trade show and we come back, we want the sequence already set up. So obviously there's a lot of technology available to make that happen. So companies wanting to utilize that more. So that's another major trend we're seeing. And then on the content side, it's a little bit of a mixed bag because for a while we were seeing everything needed to be shorter, right? Because people's attention spans, are so small. Um, Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh no, I forgot to turn off my phone. Um, but like that content needed to be shorter snippets, needed to be more bulletized, it needed to be short videos. So definitely the way people consume content, I think that has played a factor. But alongside that, there's just as much of a demand for like more meaty, longer form, where it's really rich, but useful. So that part's, like I said, still a little bit of a mixed bag. It's not one or the other. It's just based on the company, their personality, and what they're using the content for. But those are some of the major trends we're seeing.
Definitely. And I feel like with the AI part, I do remember reading your LinkedIn profile where it said no AI mush. So that kind of stuck in my head, that did it all the way from when we first booked this call. And I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah, ChatGPT is great. It is great, do you know what I mean? But I feel like if it's not used the right way, then it's just going to churn out generic, not just content, but
totally.
generic, anything that the results are always going to be generic unless it's, really used by not, doesn't know what to say, like a professional, but someone who really knows how to prompt the AI, put system prompts in so it knows exactly what you're doing. And because like you said, everyone and them dog is using it, ChatGPT, to do it. So you need to be able to stand out. So I definitely hear that 100%. And also with the shifts in long form and short form, I feel like it'll always sort of pendulum swing a little bit.
Yeah.
People have a lot of short form and then they're like, oh, well, I want to know a bit more. And then after a little while, they're like, all right, I've been reading so much long form content. Now I just want the short stuff. So I feel like we're in an age where that's going to keep swinging.
Yeah. Yeah, just on that note too, I mean, I think like for a while, webinars, learning events, people were so tired of those, after the pandemic. I hate even talking about that anymore, but there was a period of time, like a good chunk of time or like long Zoom calls. Like people were just like, no, like enough. And like I think face to face, is also a trend that's come back. But I've also seen, well, one, I don't like the word webinar anymore. I don't use it. I've banned it from our company vocabulary. It's more like a learning event or a deep dive or fireside chat. Those have also come back, but I think again, like different format, not the same old. But and I always think those things are good. They evolve as we evolve, and what once worked, it isn't going to work today, and you have to pay attention. And then, there's also just innovating, like what people don't know that they don't know and trying to be ahead of the game. And that's another area where I really like to play. And I think our CRM focus, which has now been a year and a half since we, was a part of that where we were seeing things before companies were seeing it, and we were able to provide this solution. And you don't know how often when I'm talking about our CRM services, I get like, where have you been my whole life? Like, that's exactly what I need, because companies are spending so much on this technology and then using a fraction of it. And I think that's happening across the board with technology tools, where you sign up for something, you're spending, whether it's $20 a month or $20,000 a month on some type of technology that you think is going to save the day, but then you don't really delve into it and make it work for you. So I think that's a whole category, that I'm looking forward to providing more solutions in.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think clarity comes to mind with stuff like that. Like, yeah, it looks good, but if you're not going to implement it or have someone to show you how to implement it,
Yeah.
then a lot of the time you're just paying the subscription, but you're not actually getting the benefits out of the tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
So, your CRM, is that like a proprietary tool that you've built?
No, we're CRM agnostic. So we work with companies with whatever CRM they're using. So, some of the most popular ones are HubSpot. HubSpot's our main one. Salesforce, we definitely have a splattering of customers that use Salesforce or Zoho or, you know, um, I'm not even remembering the other ones, but
Yeah.
but yeah, we're pretty agnostic around that, and we plug into whatever our customers are using versus we haven't built anything proprietary now.
And are you leveraging AI at all with any of that, or is it a different system altogether?
It's really a strategy. So part one is, what's the customer journey? And these questions kind of seem basic, but you'd be surprised. You probably wouldn't, but how many companies don't really have that documented? Like, what is the customer journey from when a customer or prospect first learns about you to, working with you, to then like how do you stay engaged with them? So we map that out, and then how are they using the CRM to support that, and then what content they need, and then setting up the technology and tools. So it's not an AI tool, or it's a bunch of different tools we're using to create that. Certainly AI can be part of it, depending on the CRM and what AI functionality they might have as part of their CRM subscription. So but that's the basics. It's really defining the customer journey, using the CRM to support the customer journey, creating the content, and then tapping into the technology that your CRM has, like automations, like dashboards, to then support all of that, so that you don't need a team of 10. Your CRM kind of feels like your team of 10 if you're using the technology correctly.
No, definitely. With automation and having a dashboard, a clear dashboard can help businesses tenfold, because having it all clear in one space as opposed to it all being on different pages and things like that, I feel like is a massive, massive, massive help. And obviously, when you knit in automation with that as well, sort of it works autonomously in the background. I
Yeah,
feel like yeah, it helps so much.
absolutely.
Wendy, what's been working really well for Content Bacon lately, and where do you still feel a little drag?
What's been working really well is relationships. We are really a very hands-on company. We talk to our customers, we reach out to our customers, we actually pick up the phone. And so that's something that I want to continue to double down and triple down on, because I think as the pendulum has swung, and that, all the things we're talking about that I also love, AI, automations, I still think that if you're not having that one-on-one every so often, you're you're not getting to the heart of it. And our company, and me in particular, I'm so passionate about helping companies tell their story in a way that resonates with their audience. And that's not something easy to do. It sounds easy, but it's not. And so relationships work and communication works. And just really, like, I'm a big believer of giving so much value, being of service. Like, that's, where I'm most fulfilled, is when we're truly adding value and being of service to our customers. And, we just had a quick call today with a longtime customer who was sharing an issue she was having, and she just wanted to share it with us and say, I'm relying on you guys to support me with this. And it was just such a great feeling to have that conversation. And she knows that she's got a partner with us that isn't just content related. It's also like, if there's something going on that you don't know how to solve, let us know, because we've got a lot of great brains on the team. So that's for sure what's working. What's not working, or I guess what I would want to work better, is, I mean, it's always growth. Like, I want to be growing faster than we are, and balancing that with infrastructure. So I've throughout the 10 years, we've kind of had it where we get too much demand and we don't have the infrastructure. You need to hire, and again, you want to provide quality, so you don't want to take that on if you don't have the right people in place or resources. And then there's the other side, where I've built the company up, all these resources, expecting the demand, and then that always hasn't gone as planned. So I think that's always, for us, been the biggest opportunity, is how to balance that more. And a good balance of the right people, the best processes and products, and then technology to support all that, and giving our own internal stuff the same amount of attention and care that we give to our customers, which most companies can also understand, because we all do it, right? We all give so much to our customers, and sometimes put our own stuff on the back burner. So finding that balance is something that is always in the back of my mind, and that I'm always focused on.
No, definitely. I feel like a lot of founders can resonate with that, trying to deliver for clients without actually looking, or without taking the foot off the gas a little bit, or looking at their own business. But I feel like, finding that right balance is tough, especially as you're going through, you know, lots of years of business. You sometimes put your foot on the accelerator on this one and take your accelerator off that one. But finding that right balance, I feel like, is key, obviously, and
Yeah,
helping with, the new technologies and things like that, leveraging these new technologies,
yeah,
automations, these types of things can obviously take that stress a little, alleviate that stress a little bit. I would say, obviously not completely. I wouldn't say, because everybody's always going to be checking over to make sure that they're optimizing where they are in their business. But I do think that's where it can help a lot.
yeah. I think what you're saying is also reminding me of something else that keeps me up at night, so to speak. There are so many new technologies coming out. I get like a zillion emails and texts a day on the next big new thing, the promise of all these things. And most of them I relegate to spam, because I think they are. But there is that, like, okay, like, am I doing enough? Are we doing enough as an organization to research all the new technologies and make sure we're always up on the latest and greatest? And it's really hard to do right now. It's overwhelming. And I'm always a big believer of, like, not ignoring the basics and mastering the basics in pursuit of the next shiny new object, because I've definitely done that in my past.
Mm,
And so, but I do think, figuring out how to stay abreast of all these new technologies and determine, is our tech stack the best, that it needs to be, or where do we need to upgrade? And that is challenging for us.
definitely at this time, because there's a new tool coming out every day. Yeah,
At
every
least
day.
one.
Yeah, at least one. Yeah, no, definitely. And figuring out, what works, what doesn't work for each company will be slightly different. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's never going to be, I don't think, a one size fits all. there's going to be different kinds of tools that work for different companies, but also the workflows in which they go into, having custom workflows built. It's like it's like the gas that goes with the car, if that makes sense. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like the tools,
Yeah.
yeah, they're all good, but if you haven't got the gas to drive the car, then it's pretty pointless. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like, yeah, there's two sides to that coin, shall we say?
Yeah.
Wendy, I just want to zoom in a little bit on your pipeline and acquisition and delivery. Could you walk me through your client acquisition process from first contact to when they sign?
Yeah, so we get new leads from a lot of different sources, our own marketing efforts. We've got some great email campaigns that go out, or social media. We do learning events. We have some great partnerships. My favorite source is referrals, when we get referrals, which we get quite often. So the first action is we do a connect call where it's anywhere 15, 20 minutes where we learn about their their needs, what they're doing now, what they're looking for. And based on if we think there's a good fit there, then we set up a recommend and explore call where, we put together some ideas for what a subscription might look like for them, what results they can expect from that. That's usually a 45-minute to hour call. And then based on that, we usually close them right there. Or, if we don't, it might be, we failed to ask the right question during the connect in terms of what's the decision process, what's the budget. If we do our job right in that call, usually they won't even book the explore recommend unless they're serious, and then we're able to close, or maybe we make some adjustments based on some feedback. But it's pretty simple. We do have some products that don't even require a phone call. We we have a LinkedIn profile optimization. We have some very like lower cost, like under than $1,000, that are transactional, where we get people that just buy those on the site, and then those typically lead to bigger conversations and bigger opportunities. I like those a lot, so I definitely want to spend more time developing more of those type products so people can get to know us in a very low risk way and see how amazing we are and then want to do more. So those are kind of the two acquisition models we have today.
And is that cold email that you use, or is it warm email marketing that you're using from?
Yeah, it's our own database that we acquire through people signing up for different things. We've not really done much cold email. I know it seems like it's a big thing lately, and people are doing a lot of it. We have done a lot of it for our customers. Some very successful, some not successful at all. So, but that's not something we've taken on. I'm a big believer in building the list, nurturing the list. We just signed on a new customer yesterday that's been on our list for 5 years, and, just finally ready. And that's just, how it goes.
Definitely. And with the smaller tools, I feel like it's like a land and expand almost. Once they test that out, they might be a little bit, before they test out, they might be a little bit apprehensive. But once they test out, your smaller proprietors and they see how much they work, it almost like sparks that curiosity in them to be able to say, oh, well, let's explore other things.
Yeah.
Wendy, could you walk me through how you take a client from initial brief through to campaign handoff?
Yeah. So after a customer signs on, we have a really amazing onboarding experience. We look at onboarding as kind of its own, cycle of the customer journey. So there's a questionnaire that gets filled out by the customer, and there's also a handoff that whoever closed the sale does. And then we have some internal huddles to make sure everything's aligned. And then our onboarding team schedules, a welcome and then kickoff call where they review what they signed up for and present kind of the initial strategy and get feedback. And then once that's approved, we begin creating the first pieces of content. And then we use the first pieces. to kind of make sure we've got the right tone, right personality. We're developing a style guide with them through this process. Sometimes they have one, but maybe it's not up to date, or maybe they don't even know what's in it. So, developing a style guide, and then we deliver those first few pieces of content and do a review call with them to make sure it hit the mark. Sometimes it does 100%, and it's like then we just hit the ground running. Sometimes it doesn't hit it at all, and we have to rework it. And we always educate our customers on that. Hey, this is a process. It may right out of the gate be perfect. It may not. Either way, it's perfect. Like whatever it is, it's going to work. And so then that's, and also through this process, through onboarding, we're getting access to all their systems. We're doing, our own review of everything behind the scenes. We're making sure things are set up properly. We're making sure, we've got access to analytics. And again, like kind of looking a little bit closer under the hood. Sometimes we do that pre-sale just to add value and just to make sure we're not missing anything. But mostly that's done during what we call, the onboarding month. And then again, we hit the ground running and we begin delivering everything that's in their subscription. Many things are monthly, so it's kind of like publishing a magazine. It's like you create everything and then the next month you do it again. Some things are quarterly, or even one-time projects. Like sometimes we'll do a website refresh as we're developing their content strategy because they've just got old stuff on there and it needs a facelift. So again, it just depends on what's in their subscription. And then once we onboard them and we set up cadences of communication that work for them. So some of our customers like to meet every 2 weeks, even if it's for 15 minutes. Some just prefer to get the weekly email recap. We do have a technology called Bacon Station where at any time they can log in and see what's been completed and waiting for approval, what's in the works, and they can make comments. So that's a really great tool that we did develop. And then we're meeting with them on at least a monthly basis to review results, talk about takeaways, find out if anything new is going on in their business. And then quarterly, we do more of a deep dive where we really dig into results and, if things are working, how can we leverage it? If things aren't working, what do we need to do to tweak or improve? So that's kind of an overall snapshot of how it works.
I feel like the tool where you said they could log in and see, where everything is moving must be very, very valuable to them. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they don't, even if if they're not able to get through for any reason, or they're not aligned, they can't understand, all the sort of where, the language of it, or it's so much easier if they can log in and see it for themselves.
100%. And we'll also work in their project management system. So, like, if they're using something and want us to keep that up to date, we're also like always keen to do that. And we're using the tools that most companies use. Like sometimes we have Slack channels with our customers if they want that. It just depends on what they want. We have kind of a bag of tools, a menu, and based on their preferences, we'll align with them so that they feel like, we're super easy to work with and that, we never want to be the bottleneck.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I think being as transparent as you can in business, especially when you're working B2B and things like that, I feel like is the way, obviously the way forward. You know what I mean? It puts people at ease, and the trust is always there. Then, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So, Wendy, a lot of agencies say they're using AI, but most are dabbling in tools instead of embedding it as a nervous system that connects the workflows. Where would you say you are right now? More here and there, or would you say you're fully integrated? Integrated.
Yeah. I wouldn't say we're fully integrated, although, we definitely have invested a lot in using AI tools to help make sure all the dots are connected and we're not missing anything. But I guess if I had to rate us between, here and there and fully integrated, I'd say we're probably about a 6 or 7, if on a scale of 1 to 10. I might be overrating us, but because I think, and the reason I say that is because I think what fully integrated meant yesterday is different than what it might
Mm,
mean today, because there's just always more and more. And that goes back to my earlier point about, making sure we're as up to date as possible. But I think I always look at gauge our success on, are we delivering value? Do our customers, are they our customers, getting value? And how we do that, whether it's using AI tools, using human tools, using a combination, to me is secondary to making sure we are delivering and exceeding their expectations on a consistent basis. And I think that is what drives me to want to tap more into technology, because I do think it does make it easier and more effective. And again, things keep moving faster and faster, right? Like you've got to be on top of your game if you want to stay relevant, which obviously I do. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
no, yeah, no, definitely. I feel like to have it as a, have it embedded into your workflows sort of thing. I think having a dashboard is key, you know what I'm saying? And then everything's sort of linked to that dashboard. And automation is more like just connecting. The more things you can connect to one brain, I feel like, the better everything sort of works together as sort of one cohesion. I wasn't trying to say like, oh, you're using every single tool, because
Yeah,
nobody
yeah,
is,
yeah.
what I'm saying? Nobody is, but I feel like having it as a baseline, I feel, as a like a nervous
Yeah,
system,
we
like I said.
we have amazing dashboards that I credit my ops production team. That's probably something, that's not my strength. And so having people on the team that is their strength, thank goodness. But we have amazing dashboards. So for the most part, we know exactly what's going on, what we can expect to be going on, and where the bottlenecks, if any, might be that we need to solve.
A dashboard like that is like a brain, and everything else is like I say, the nervous system that goes through the body, and having then it just can it's so much easier to connect everything together,
Yeah,
and having making things automated in a way like when you do something, it gets signed off and you just pop it somewhere and it'll send it to where it needs to go, as opposed to relying on humans to be like, oh, did I send that? Did I not send that? That type of thing.
100%.
No,
100%.
so, Wendy, where do you want the business to be in the next 12 to 18 months, both in terms of growth and as your role as a founder?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always looking for big growth, 5x, 10x would be nice. That's certainly the path that, we're building for. I think I really want us to be known as leaders when it comes to leveraging your CRM with strategy, content, and technology, and kind of be the go-to resource. Like we're who you think about. And then as a result, we're really helping the companies we work with find the gold in their CRM. That's so rewarding when a company comes to us and they've got 20,000 contacts but haven't done much or anything, and within a few months we're able to clean it up, put some things in place and generate leads and revenue for them. And so I love that, and I want to just double, triple, quadruple down on that. And then as a founder, I really I want to continue spending time in those three areas I talked about earlier, coaching and developing, product development, and then big relationships. And I think in the big relationships with this CRM focus, kind of land some big whales where they've got, maybe it's a CRM that partners with us. I don't know. Maybe HubSpot, wants to buy us. I don't know. But I definitely want to get more strategic on landing some strategic partnerships that do support that 5 or 10x growth for us.
Definitely. I feel like there's so much value in
So
what
if
you're saying.
anyone's out there, yeah, if anyone's out there listening, call me.
Oh no, and definitely, I feel like there's so much value in, it must be so rewarding as well to, when you get someone with a CRM, not generating the revenue that they want from that, and you being able to clean that up, tweak different things, and then unlock that value from the same amount of contacts that was always there. I feel like it must be so rewarding, not only for you, but it must be like for them relief almost.
So great. I have a challenge that I like to give companies just to think about and have them, ponder if they weren't able to generate any new leads for 30 days, 60 days, and they had to get new business from existing customers, past customers, prospects, what would they do? And I think it's such a great exercise because most of us are always thinking new, new, new. We need new, new, new. And it's like, well, do you? And often you don't. It's like just leverage what you've got, but most companies don't spend any time there. So that's kind of a fun challenge I always like to throw out because I think just thinking about it that way, like people realize like, oh yeah, we have a lot more assets than we probably, you know, are even recognizing.
No, definitely. I feel like that also ties into when people are getting leads and they feel like and they're running through them and they feel like they need more leads, but it's actually you need to qualify these leads and get them on the right call. So then you know what I mean you're then at a more advanced position to be able to close them also. I feel like, in these little small pockets of the pipeline, I feel like tightening it's like tightening screws. Do you know what I'm saying? The more you tighten up these screws to different places, the more it's going to flow through your pipeline in such a more, a more advanced way, I would say as well, and more. I can't think of the word now, but more.
Yeah, more effectively, more
Yeah.
deliberately.
No,
Yeah.
definitely, 100%. So our last question, Wendy, is if you could wave a magic wand and remove one friction, either from your business or from business in general, what would it be and why?
Goodness. Yeah, what pops up, and I guess because we've been talking about AI so much, is like I would love to like stop the spam, just stop the just generic AI generated, part of my French bullshit, crappy content that's out there, just the barrage of text and LinkedIn messages and emails. There's just so much noise. And I know my wish will probably not happen, but I think, for me, I think there's so many people that are frustrated by that because it's just so much noise, like inboxes are just infiltrated with crap and, texting and, you know, communication tools that used to really work good and still can, but because there's so much noise right now, it just gets in the way and people kind of tune out. They don't even they're just tuned out. It's just too much. And so I'd love to see the pendulum swing the other way for that.
I agree. I feel like, right, because of all that, it makes it harder for when you something, you're trying to get across that's nothing to really do with that. But because there's so much spam in the folder, it's like it's hard for them to even see the gold that's in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And as much as I, understand and appreciate retargeting, that's also something like where I'm even sometimes tentative to like click on something because I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to be bombarded. I'm just doing my research?" And so I think, like, again, a little bit more discernment from companies. Obviously, it works, or companies wouldn't do it. And I know it works, but I think the human experience should still be considered. Just because it works and makes money doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So I really wish that would also swing the other way because it really is annoying to like have a conversation with a friend or click on something just because you're interested and then just get bombarded constantly. You're like, "Ugh," you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. I hear you. I was on Instagram and I clicked on some like home gym thing, and then since then, that's all I've seen. It's literally all I've seen for the last 3 or 4 days. So no, I feel your pain
Yeah.
there, definitely. Wendy, before we
Yeah. I think
go,
it worked.
go on. No, go on.
No, no, no. Yeah. I'm good.
Wendy, before we go, where can my viewers and listeners contact you online?
Yeah, so Wendy with the Y at Content Bacon, or just look me up. I'm on all social media. I love answering, requests. I love if you've got a challenge and you just want to chat about it. If you got feedback, I'm very accessible and responsive. So for sure, reach out to me.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you, Wendy, for coming on, sharing your insights.
Thank you, Stefan. This was so fun. You're a great interviewer.
Thank you very much. You enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks.